Hey, welcome to day 2 of the 3 hacks that we put together to help you achieve your goals faster with ADHD. And these are the things that help me every single day. I use them all the time, and I continue to refine them as I work with my ADHD brain and as I continue to grow my practice. And this being said, it is going to evolve. So I want you to take the pressure off of yourself to know exactly what this means, to do it exactly the way that you're supposed to the first time, whatever that means, and just give you space for humanity. No one is going to do it perfectly. Even I have been doing it for 3 years, doing this system. It has completely changed my life, but I am still not perfect. So I want that to also be a place where you can just pull one piece that you want to take from this today and start taking action on it. There is a lot of information that is in all of my videos because I happen to be a person that understands so much more when I get more information. So I want that to be a thing where you recognize that there's going to be a lot of information and you get to take whatever you want from it. Do not expect that you have to take everything from it. And okay, here we go. So many of us fall into this category, especially when we have a bunch of things to do. We have all of these exciting things in our life, but so much to do is a thought that is overwhelming. It will cause overwhelm, it will cause anxiety, and it causes our brain to shut down. As an ADHD entrepreneur, our ADHD brain actually shuts down every time we add pressure to it. And so much to do is pretty pressurizing, right? We have this expectation for ourselves to fulfill something. But when we can recognize that it's not a helpful thought, and that it's not even necessarily, maybe it's true because you technically have a lot of things on your to-do list. It doesn't mean that it really actually has to evoke any emotion. And I mean that in a way that it doesn't, I'm not gaslighting you or whatever. I know that some people perceive that as like a gaslighting. But we do get to have control of all of our emotions, and we get to decide how we want to feel when we look at a to-do list. And this is something else that we get to learn and have control over through life coaching. We have an entirely different perspective when we have a clear mind that we understand. Things are less impactful because we don't have so much that we're carrying around. So I will show you the process on how we can transform so much to do, this thought of so much to do, to a very simple process that you can complete your to-do list and not expect yourself to do it all at once. As an ADHD person, we experience the now or not now. And a thing that can put a ton of extra pressure on us is we're afraid that in our past we have forgotten to do something because we have the now or not now. We have now when we get everything done, or it's never going to happen, right? But we can actually live in both of those places, as we talked about a little bit yesterday. And now we're actually going to go through and figure out how we can start to utilize all that work that we did yesterday. So if you have not watched the video from yesterday, please make sure you go back and watch that. Otherwise, it's going to feel potentially overwhelming because we are building upon everything that we decided yesterday. It is crucial that we go through the steps. I also walk you through what it looks like and how to do it. Okay. So calendaring, use what works. So many of us have tried multiple different things. I can't tell you how many millions of calendars that I tried to use, and they were great when I remember to use them. They have all these things. Even on my iPad, I had this calendar that helped me, and it was all writing. And normally I'm a tactile person, but I need the iCalendar. The only thing that has ever worked for me is iCalendar because I have a routine of checking it. And I have a shared calendar with my husband, right? Everything is there. And so I'm utilizing the resources that I already have a built-in routine for and allow that to be my crutch. I want it to be really simple where you don't have to get a new app. I don't want you to have to remember something different. I want you to use something that you use on a regular basis. So if that means for you that you have a certain alarm where you have a consistent schedule every single day and it's just an alarm that comes up and that works for you, know that that's perfect. For me, it looks like my calendar on my phone. Because no matter what, if I'm working on my laptop like I am right now, it's easy. I can pull up my calendar and it looks exactly the same. If I'm running around and doing all sorts of stuff, I can pull up my calendar in my phone. It's always accessible. So all the tools that I'm going to show you today are built into an iPhone and very likely just naturally built into an Android. I don't know why it wouldn't be. It will probably have different names though. So I really want you to just use what you know has worked for you in your past. I don't want you to ditch whatever you're using to find because you think that something is better. Use what you know works. Second, I want you to be realistic. We're going to go through this again, but reality, our ADHD brain oftentimes likes to set really high goals. We like to try to get way more things done than is physically possible. And then it makes us believe like we're never going to get things done and we create more overwhelm than possible. We're also going to learn a little bit more about time boundness, and we're going to realize really what is realistic. Because in ADHD, and I do this all the time, I think that I can create an entire website in about 3 hours. And the reality of that is it's just not true. So that's another really cool thing that I've learned from calendaring as I start to realize just how much time I am spending on things and just how much time I should start allotting for it. I also use a reusable checklist, and I'll show you this as well. It's a very easy way for us to templatize all the things so that we don't feel like we need to remember everything. We can use a literal robot, our computer or our phone, to have a checklist of all the things that are important to us that we want to make sure that we have time scheduled on there. And then we're going to learn about automating. And this is something that I really do love about the iCalendar is I can just decide how many times a week or a month or a year that I want something to reoccur, and it allows me to only have to think about it once. So we're going to dive into that. Don't worry if you're like, hey, I don't necessarily know what that means. We'll go through it in just a second. So yesterday we decided how much time we wanted to spend on our healthy body or whatever your priorities are. So these are the priorities that I've decided for my personal life. So we're going to start with actually scheduling our personal, au contraire to so many of the things that we have thought we had to do in our life. We thought we had to work and then we had a little bit of fun and play. Well, we're going to switch that around. So I decided healthy body, healthy mind, my hubby and family, business and friendships. That's how I want to prioritize my life. So I'm going to schedule those first. And then we're also going to make sure that we have enough time for sleep. How many hours did you want to sleep? And making sure that you have a sleep routine that supports that, right? You can put that, I even physically put it in my calendar. The get ready for bed is a thing that lives in my calendar. And then how many hours did you decide that you wanted to work? Do you work multiple jobs? I own a Rossiter practice and I'm also a coach. So I had to decide how many hours I was going to life coach and how many hours I have dedicating to growing my Rossiter practices. So in that we have a defined amount of time and we get to decide how we want to spend all of that time in that work. Another thing that we talked about yesterday that is very important to really hone in is daily vacation and making sure that you hold yourself accountable to taking time off, to taking that daily vacation and writing down a list of all the things that you decided yesterday. What are some things? What are some hobbies? What do I think are really fun? And putting that in a templatized, a simple format that you can copy and just paste right into your daily vacation calendar that will be a reoccurring thing. And then remembering what our values and priorities, right? We already kind of started with that. Here's our priorities, and then we're going from there. Once you have all of these things scheduled, sleep, work, you're like time blocked, then we can get a little bit more detailed in that time where we are working. We can reverse engineer our goals. So when we know that we have a certain goal for the year, we're going to break that down into, hey, I want this, I need this to happen every day, right? So Year translates to month, translates to week, translates to day. And if that's really confusing, let me know. I would be happy to just sit down with you and help you decide, hey, what are some goals and what are some KPIs? If you don't remember from day one, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator, and it is like really like 3 to 5 numbers that you can use to keep a pulse on your business. What we track grows, and it's really, really important to have a KPI. This is where we can really lean into growth and learning what we can do to continue to refine the process. So anyways, during your work, we're going to assess what our goals are, what our KPIs are, and our values and our target market. And those 3 things are going to help us through our reverse engineering to really schedule accordingly. It's going to really fine tune the things that we want to be doing, because we can have lists and lists and lists of things that we want to do. But when we realize that this doesn't speak to my target market, this doesn't speak to my values, and it's completely outside of the goal that I want to do this year, we get to chuck like 3/4 of our list, right? We have all of these business plans and ideas and shiny objects that we can chase forever. But really, if it's not going to get us to our number one goal, maybe for this quarter, which we call rocks as well, if you are familiar with that term, it simplifies life, right? It can get rid of and recognize like, oh, okay, all these to-do items that feel like they're really, really important right now, actually, they're really not that important, right? So using that is really helpful, especially if you have a lot on your to-do list. So the title of your event, either if it's in a written format or if you did decide to follow the iCalendar format, you want the name to be very specific. So the title of the event for me in this example is complete 5 social media posts posted on Facebook Planner. And then my time boundness is the slot. So it's from like 1 to, from 1 to 2. So it's specific. I know exactly what I need to do. It's measurable because I said 5, right? I know that if I only get 3 done, I'm not done. It's actionable because I know what actions I need to take in order to complete this, right? I decided it's posted on Facebook Planner and it's reasonable. I know through the last few times, and my rule for myself is 10 minutes for a post, that I can get 5 social media posts done in 1 hour. And this is not something that I knew right off the bat. Like when I first started, I had no idea how long it would take me to make 5 social media posts. I would have guessed before that it would have taken me a half hour, which is half the amount of time. So just know that it is very likely that you might need to round up a little bit while you're first getting going. And then, extra time it's nice, right? So I want to go back through that again. Smart rules is specific, where it's very specific. You know exactly what you want to do. It's measurable. So there is a number. You know exactly when you've completed your thing. It's actionable. You know how to take action on it. It's reasonable. It's something that you can complete, and it's time bound. It is bound within, hey, I'm going to get this done by next Tuesday, or I'm going to get this done between 1 and 2, right? That makes it really easy for us to know exactly when it needs to be done. This allows us to prioritize it. Be realistic. How many things can I really get done? How much time do I believe it will take me to complete this? How often do I need a brain break? So a lot of us, we get huge dopamine hits off of getting a ton of things done on our to-do list, but we don't allow us to celebrate ourselves when we are complete with something. When we recognize that our brain, so I'm actually on one camp, and I also realize other people are on others. And I also want to share, there are some times where I switch to the other camp. So my original camp is I am a master at sitting down and just hyper focusing for hours. So like 5 or 6 hours, I can just like zoom in on my work and I can just go. It's when I start to try to break it up is when things get a little tough for me. And there are other people that really need to take breaks. You might benefit from the Pomodoro app. So there's a thing called the Focus Timer. It's an application on your phone. It is something you would have to download separately, but I have a hair in my mouth. But yeah, so you would be able to, it would just do a loud timer. So it'd be 25 minutes where you could work, you could focus on something, and then you would have a 5-minute break where you could just breathe and you could go walk and you could do whatever you wanted. Something that's really helpful about this is, especially if you're somebody that tends to get distracted and then you're wandering off, I like it for those days where I am in that place where I just need kind of shorter breaks and spurts of activity of work. And I can look down at my clock, and when I start it starts at 25 minutes and it counts down. And I can, when I get distracted and I really want to start doing something else, I look down at my timer and it says 16 minutes. And I'll be like, okay, I know I can be focused for 16 more minutes. I can do this. And then I'll look back down and it says 8 more minutes. Okay, I know I can stay focused for 8 more minutes. In this place, though, I do want to give you permission to, when you have something that pops up in your head that feels important, to write it down. So we can build trust with our brains and with ourselves that we're not going to drop the ball. Yes, I'm listening to you. I honor you, brain, but I'm going to finish this task right now. So depending on whatever you're doing, maybe you want to sit down for those 5-hour increments, and that's how you just like hyper focus and you just get everything done. Maybe you're I made all of my social media posts for an entire year doing this. And that means that I can completely remove my brain from ever thinking about social media stuff for the rest of the year and focus on other things, right? And so it completely depends on where you're at in your life and where you're at then. What do you do your best when you power through? What supports your brain? So do you need a walk during the day, or maybe just after certain tasks? Sometimes I'm going to have a ton of energy, or I feel a little fluttery, like there's just a lot going on in my brain and I really need a walk. One of the times that I need a walk the most is when I'm doing something really frustrating. So I fight with my website building software all the time. It seems to work sometimes and then it completely resets and things are crazy. I recognize that when I start to get really frustrated with the process, I just have to pause and I go for a walk. And when I do that, it allows me to reset. I'm able to then come back and be chill. So I always, now knowing that my brain responds to technology, especially when I know I'm going to be doing a task that I do not enjoy, but I'm deciding that it is important for me to do it, I might schedule some kind of active, relaxing activity, like walking. Or at the end of the day, if you're like, hey, I'm going to do this at the end of my day, and then I can go paddleboarding or whatever it is. But it's so helpful to just like reset your nervous system and then come back and you have more clarity, instead of trying to take all these actions from this place of like frantic anger towards like whatever is frustrating you, right? I love reusable checklists. So this is what I have. It's in my reminders list on my iPhone. I have my brain all in one place. I know everything that I want to remember. So I do not expect myself to remember anything. I know that I'm not a robot. And at the top, you might have noticed that I have links. I have a couple things that I need to schedule every single week. I schedule a mentoring, I schedule coaching, and I schedule mentoring, coaching. I can't think of the third one. It doesn't matter. But I have links there. They're really a pain in the butt to try to go through. I had to click like 10 different things to get to those links. So I just made sure that it was super easy for me. I never have to think about it again. I have the title up above it, and I just click on it and there it is. It's ready to go. So it's really streamlined my scheduling process. So I don't be like, oh yeah, what do I need to schedule? I feel like there's something I'm missing. I don't know exactly what to do. I can't find this link, like all of those things. And as you go through this, you're going to start to build more things. You're going to have like a little obstacle, boom, 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 where you just hit this little rut. And that's a great place for me to be like, okay, that was really annoying. What can I do in the future to support that so I don't have to go through that again? And that's exactly why I started adding the links in here, because yeah, going on a link search is not my favorite use of time. Automation. How many times do you want to do this thing? Is this something that you want to do every week? Is this something that you want to do every month? Or is it biweekly? Whatever it is, it's really easy when you have it on your calendar to just do reoccurring. So you would go to the left, click on it, and you will do in the repeat, you'll change it to whatever frequency that you want. You can have it even show up on the 1st and 3rd of every Tuesday. Like you can get real fancy with it. But I really want to suggest to, decide how often do you want to do this and just make it so it's reoccurring. As soon as you make it reoccurring, you can move them around and that's easy and that's fine. But then it just takes the thought out of needing to decide what you wanted to do this day. Automation continued. So one of my favorite little tricks is if you decide to not make something reoccurring, you can use the same exact title and it will automatically add in all the links and all the notes that you've had from any other note with that exact same name. Event with the same name will pull up the same notes and all the links that you need. So use this hack. It saved me a bunch of times. I want to also show you that I always add the links into my calendar. Not only do I have it in my automated checklist that I use to schedule my calendar, I also put them in my calendar. So as you can see here, my swim for 90 minutes, I have both of the YMCAs that I swim at, and I have their lap pool links because I don't know if you swim at the YMCA, but it's like a rabbit hole just trying to find the availability. And they change it often. So I wanted to make sure that not only did I have the times in there, all the things that I needed to know if I needed to move it around, because there are way too many times where I showed up to the pool and it was closed. And hello, now we have it. We learn and we grow. So every single Friday, this actually might be one of my favorite parts of this, especially with the things like I talked about with ADHD, our time awareness, and our organization. There's a bunch of things that this just saves my life. If you didn't get anything done, this is a time where we can go back through the week and transfer all the things that we did not get done to the next week. And we can also reflect back in on, hey, was I being a perfectionist? If it took me 3 hours longer than I originally scheduled, was I just not allowing it to be good enough, right? Did I need more time? Was I not being a perfectionist, but was I just completely underestimating how much time it would take? Like my example of, I'm going to make 5 social media posts and post them on the Facebook planner and expecting me to be able to do that in a half hour, which is exactly what I used to do. This is what I recognized. Okay, I actually need an hour because it took me an hour every single time. Because the only reason why I recognized that was not because I knew to time myself at the beginning. That is another strategy that you could potentially use. It was because I was an hour after my schedule, and I missed a couple events that I had scheduled for myself because it took me too long. So without needing extra things and extra timers and all these things that I had to remember to do, I was just able to finish that, go to my calendar to see what I needed to do next. And I saw that it was an hour longer than I had planned. So this gives us more time awareness, right? We get to realize how long it's actually taking us to do things in a simplified way. And We also get to learn how much we want to schedule, if we schedule too much or too little. Yesterday, I talked a little bit about making sure that you support yourself. If you know that you have a lot going on in your personal life, you might want to schedule a little bit less business. If you know that you are running a marathon in 2 days, or like, let's do backwards, like you ran a marathon yesterday, you might give yourself a lot less to do on your to-do list. So it's going to be fluctuating. Really figure out what your energy level's like. If you're about to start your period, I also recommend putting less on your calendar because we might be a little bit more tired, but feel it out. Learn what works for you best, what supports you and your brain. If I'm curious what stood out to you the most. If there's any questions that you have on implementing any of this, if you're feeling any anxiety or overwhelm, or just, hey, I wonder how you actually follow through with this, I am more than happy to sit down with you. This, I'm not kidding, has completely changed my life. And I would just love to help other people see that really life doesn't have to be this anxiety ridden. And being an entrepreneur, there are so many things and tools that we can lean on that people won't maybe even recognize that we're ADHD. Not that that's even a problem. So I want to say something about that a little bit of, I really don't want there to be any shame for ADHD, and just know that you are hugely gifted with the ability to change and shift and innovate and everything. And now we can just find everyone has a weakness somewhere, and we get to understand our weakness, and we get to add things that help support us in a way that we know we can have our own back. So do not expect yourself to be perfect. Do not expect this to be everything for you to be able to implement all of this. But if you do have questions, please reach out. I'm so excited. Okay, bye friends.